first on our agenda is Jim. He's sitting over there. And, Jim will take it away. Thanks.
Good afternoon. So before I start this, I just want to say I'm gonna speed this presentation up a little bit. This information's been kind of hit multiple times today by Jay and Dalton, and it plays to the validity that we all go through the same things here in this room. We all may follow a different path to get there due to either legal reasons or operational reasons for us. It proves the point that we all talk, we all learn from each other. This piece that I'm going to do a short presentation on here is something I took away from the national conference in Mobile. I don't know if Alabama's still here. His predecessor presented something that amazed me. So for Connecticut, we initiated a trade. I'll call it a trade initiative. Some basics for our state fleet. State of Connecticut, our department has roughly over 4,500 plated pieces of equipment. Replacement value exceeding well over $350 million at this point in time. And some of this information at the beginning is basic information, but it leads to why we wanted to head down this path. So budgets. Prior to 2010, our equipment replacement budget averaged right around $2 million. There was points in time we received funding from additional sources. They would move money around if we had slow winters, and we would get additional funding. We went up to $4 million, sometimes more than that. 2012, our state made a decision to bond the equipment, and at that time they bonded. We started with $10 million. We transitioned to $19 million, and our next presentation we do a biannual budget will be this coming September. We're going to be asking for 23. My question that I took away from Mobile, even when we were at reduced funding, is how does the state of Connecticut realize the most value for its fleet from purchase time to the time it leaves state service? This was my solution. This is in our distribution of state property. So Section 4A tells us right here, I'm not going to read it to you, we have the ability as a state agency to research or go down the path of trading vehicles in if it's in the best economical interest of the state. Why trade in? A little bit of history for us. Past surplus equipment income, if we send it through, we used to run internally a state surplus. Now it's contracted out. That money, when equipment is sold, was returned to the general fund. It did not return to the equipment or the fleet side of the house. The limited budgets prior to 2012 increased our life cycle, stretched them out as long as they can. We call it cradle to the grave. Sometimes I've called it cradle to the dumpster. We would hold on to surplus equipment, especially when they only did one auction a year when the state ran it. Now they'll auction on a regular basis because it's through an independent company. It would encumber a lot of our time to transport it to our auction yard, which was in the central area of the state. And by the time we got to that point, the value was minimal. We didn't really care because we didn't see it back. So the benefits. So these are benefits that we put on the table. If I trade it, I'm trading against the purchase. So if a purchase price is $20,000 for a pickup and I trade one in for $10,000, I'm buying a new pickup for $10,000. I'm reusing that money 2 times, 3 times over. Hopefully reduce our life cycle times, shorten them up, reduce our repair cost. Hopefully we can get to a point where we can keep them within a warranty period or just slightly out of a warranty period. Increased uptime. The operations side of the department always wants increased uptime. This was a big one for us. Control total fleet number. Stop our fleet creep. Years and years we would keep it because it ran. We would use it for various purposes. Although I like Dalton's statement. What was it? Strategic reserve. We call them spares. I like his better. So stop the fleet creep. So it becomes a 1-for-1 for us. So the unit can't request to keep it with some viability because to get their new one, we'd have to trade it in. These are some examples. We're very young in this. We started this about 7 months ago, 7-8 months ago. Some of the equipment that's listed here is pretty old, relatively old. 97 John Deere, market value was $8,500. The dealer gave us $8,500. If you read down through, it kind of follows suit. This is some of the light duty stuff. So pickup trucks, and there's a couple on here, if you look down, they're 2014 GMC 1500 double cab pickup trucks. Our purchase price when we bought them was a little over $21,000. Got $15,000 and used them for 6 years, 7 years. Shows some viability. This is on our heavy truck side. Something we've seen here, not that it's extensive amount of money we're seeing on trade, it's following a black book value, which is what we ask, whatever venue we're asking on the trade, we're asking them to follow suit with some of the information that's out there in the world. Kelly Blue Book, Black Book, Equipment Watch, and they have to provide us with a review and an estimate of what the value is. Right now, we're doing it about 30 days prior to receiving the new equipment. Don't know if that's a good timeline or not, but like I said, we're very, very, very young into it. What I found out here is, especially on the heavy truck side, they are willing, they don't really care if it's smashed. We've taken a body off it. Our current dealer we're working with will basically give us a value on anything. So how we did it, and I don't want to read this whole thing to you, but how we did it is we put the language in our contracts. It was something that our administrative services section, who does our contracts for us, pretty much stated that it didn't have to be there, but they had a better comfort level of it being there. This is what we require the vendor, whoever it is, whatever arena it's in, to do, present it to us in writing. And the statement in red is, this one came out of our current loader contract. We don't direct them to one specific avenue, but to use like an equipment watch or other approved evaluation tool to assist in determining the market value. We can talk to it. We can talk to it on the backside. It becomes a negotiation process because we always let them do condition, do a condition and overall review before agree to anything. And that's pretty much what I have. Any questions?
You said you started this recently, right? I can't remember what year. Do you have?
So for us to work out, we used to be Omaha Orange. We needed to transition, at least for our light duty fleet, into a color that was more marketable. So we transitioned to all white fleet 4 years ago. So those vehicles now are just currently coming up to our life cycle time where we're looking to trade them.
Do you have any concerns that the values you're getting might be inflated due to the retail market being so low?
I think the values will be inflated currently, but the way we're asking it to follow the market. So as the market moves up and down, that's where the market is. Well, we would have been another 50 trades and pickup trucks in, but if Ford could ever tell us when we're going to get them, and it'll be 43, so I don't feel bad. I think Alaska said they got cut 80 trucks. We only got cut 7.
Jim, can you back up a couple slides? Fifth one down, the 2013 7400.
Yep.
You show a book value of 34,550, but then your trade-in value is 22,000.
Yep.
Obviously, I see some accident damage. How are you basically?
What we did on this one, this truck was damaged pretty good. The whole right side of the truck, the door, the A-post. We kind of valued what a repair cost was and totaled that against what the vendor was giving us. And when we did that, it actually exceeded the market value, but I don't know about you guys, but body repair costs are going through the roof in our area.
Sure.
So we kind of take that, and we do the same thing on the light duty side. If we're trading in a vehicle as 4 bald tires, okay, we put a value to 4 bald tires. We usually put our value to it, but we kind of estimate those out to make sure we're still right around that market value.
So am I correct in understanding that you're establishing the market / trade-in value when you go out to bid?
The vendors do.
The vendors. So the numbers in yellow are what they provided to you?
What they provided, and they provide the backup from either like a Kelly Blue Book, Black Book, Equipment Watch. They provide the current information that's out there.
Okay, so in the case of one that I was looking at then, is they may have said that value probably might have been higher than your book value, which is why you probably would have accepted it, but with the damage, you downgraded it.
Correct.
Okay, that helps clarify. Thank you.
Great presentation, Jim. I think John and I are listening attentively with this 1309 project is really on point with this. My question to you is simple. This trade-in process has got to actually involve a lot of, I guess, indirect cost savings if you trade in versus trying to sell it. is there I would assume that you would probably take a discount off of the, assuming that some of those indirect cost savings, you'd rather save something close to that in the trade-in program. Is that a safe assumption, or do you work it that way?
Safe assumption. Like I said, we're early on in it, and it's evolving. It's evolving as we speak.
You said that you're getting, the vendor is providing the estimated value based on market.
Correct.
But you mentioned Black Book there, Equipment Watch. Are there others?
We'll allow them, so in our contracts, we'll mention something, and we always put the or approved equal. So if they provide us whatever it is, and I can do a basic search on it, find out the value. I mean, a lot of them are free. You can log in and get them. As long as I can research it that it's viable. Then
So my question is, if you're getting multiples of those, are you seeing differences between them?
between the dealers,
Is Black Book always higher than Equipment Watch, for example, or something like that?
so we haven't compared against them. So on the construction side, if John Deere chooses to use Equipment Watch, that's what we go with. We're not comparing. We're not like taking a three bid. Give us three pieces of information. We're just looking at the one they give us.
Have you run into a situation where you didn't like the value that they offered, and then what would you do there?
This, pretty much what's up here, there's a couple more SUVs that have gone recently, is what we've done. So far, so good, but we always reserve the right to not trade in if need be.
I'm not sure I'm fully understanding your process, and I know it's different for folks that are in the room, but do you already have a contractor that you're working with, or a vendor that you're working with on the supply side? So the new vehicle is already under contract, and you're just working with that dealer, and he's
Yes.
providing you trade-in, and you have the option of saying, no, that's not right,
So-
or yes, that is right. And
If we're currently under contract with John Deere for loaders, we're
Yeah.
dealing directly with them for trade-in process.
Okay.
And/or Ford, Chevy, Freightliner,
Yeah.
whoever it is.
so have you done any of this through a competitive bid situation where you have multiple
yet.
vendors competing and seeing a differences there?
Not
Okay.
yet.
Quick question. So are there any current challenges or issues that you're facing in regards to the training program?
One thing we learned with the first couple of light-duty fleet, the construction side fleet and the heavy fleet doesn't care if it's on a CO, certificate of origin. Light-duty dealers, the local Ford dealer, Chevy, whoever we have on contract, needs a title. So one hiccup is we had to change the CO to a title, which took us a day or two to work with motor vehicles to get a physical title for it, to get it titled instead of certificate of origin. Because everything we receive a certificate of origin. So I don't know if it's the same for everybody else.
Your fleet actually is certificate of origin and that's it? No title required?
Until it leaves our house. And for some reason, if we go to surplus it,
Yeah.
I don't know if our state surplus changed them over, but like I said, the yellow equipment fleet side, they'll work with a certificate of origin as well as the heavy truck side. It's just the light duty side. They're asking us to transfer them to title.
You actually don't get a tag, or how do you get the tag?
So we self-register.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Regarding the upfitting on these vehicles, do you have to spend some time taking all the lights and stickers off and all that, or you just turn them into the dealer like that?
So our sticker package has kind of been reduced over the years. So yes, we'll pull the stickers, and we'll pull, like the pickup trucks is easy. Everything's mounted to the rack on the back, so we'll pull that out. We do have state radios we have to pull out. There's a little bit of time and effort. Usually, right now we're doing it when we can park them side by side, because a lot of times it goes from one to the new one. So we're trying to make that transition as smooth as possible.
Does your state require you to offer that up to other agencies of the state first before you, so you can just give them right to the dealer?
I'm Mike from Virginia, and you said one word that kind of piqued my interest, not that the whole thing didn't, but you mentioned radios that you remove.
Yeah.
Are those low-band radios?
That's a good question. So currently we're on a low band radio system right now.
Okay.
We are in the process of transitioning to our CTS, our state police radio system, which is high band. They own the backbone and the infrastructure, so basically.
I was afraid you was going to say that.
But the only incurred cost that we are going to see is obviously base station radios, which we do have out in the field and the radios for the vehicles.
Is the reason that you're going to the state police radio, are you having a hard time with the low band and finding manufacturers that can manufacture those radios?
So over the last, probably a little better than a year, COVID kind of scrunched it all together there. Low band, is, as sounds like you already know, is very hard to get.
Yes.
And they're requiring, if we place an order, they want an order for an astronomical amount of number of radios. So to even build it, and then the time to build it out. So
Do you have a radio person that works for you per se?
we do, and once we make the transition, those radio people will become part of the CTS, the statewide system, which that group is growing very fast. So
Okay,
for us to transition, I mean, we all struggle with funding. To transition to a full high band radio system, we kind of want to get there a couple years ago, and we weren't able to secure. I mean, our whole project to change over is about $18 million, and the only reason we're able to move forward right now is we're able to use federal TRISA funds to do that. We just had to do the systems engineering behind it.
Just curious, what kind of downtime do you have if you're taking an operator out of a vehicle till you upfit the new one, or do you put them in a loaner in the interim, or?
We'll put them in a loaner. For a supervisor pickup, it's a day, maybe a little more than a day. We'll make that transition.
Yeah.
So.
And if you're doing it on plow trucks, I mean, are you doing kind of the same thing, or is it a little longer turnover time?
We change over plow trucks. The new truck will be totally upfit, and we'll turn it over to them. We'll take the old one out of service and then pull it down from there and reuse any pieces of equipment at that time. It's only the lighter fleet that becomes an issue. We don't strip any of the yellow equipment. If it goes with a strobe light on it, so be it. Let it go.
Are you able to consider this a best value procurement?
I haven't thought of it that way yet. We could, I guess.
There's a lot of restrictions on trade-ins in some of the states. It has to go back to the original vendor.
Mm-hmm.
But if you could say it's not a trade-in because it's not going back to the original vendor, this is the best value.
I promise I'll leave you alone soon. How do you do the purchasing for this? Because when we do a purchase order, we do the full amount, but you don't know what your trade-in value is going to be until...
So we do a change order upon receipt of the invoice. So once the trade's negotiated, the invoice that comes to us from the vendor will have the trade value on it, and we'll do a change order to our purchase order.
I guess I'm going to ask this question to Doug, if you don't mind. Doug's the only one I'm aware of that's really sort of embraced a lot of this trade-in stuff. I'm just curious, Doug, if you know, how does this compare to what you guys have been doing?
So the biggest difference, I guess, from ours is that we're running a multiple award contract on it. So we're not going back to the same vendor, and that way we can consider it competitive because we've got multiple vendors bidding on the trade-in, and we take the best trade-in value and subtract that from whatever their bid was coming in, and then we take the ultimate best value out of those two numbers together. So that's where ours, I think, is different. Jay, is there anything I'm missing?
Are you divorcing the trade-in from the purchase of, or is it the vendor that gives you the best difference in purchase price of the new unit and the trade-in of the old unit?
So it's basically, when we do a multiple award contract, it is everybody's on contract who meets the minimum specs, and they all have their own pricing. We take all those vendors who would be on contract and we offer them the trade-in, and they say, here's what our trade-in value is. And then we take the price that they want to sell us a new vehicle for minus what they offered us trade-in, and then everybody's going to have a net value down below, and then we look at who is the low one of those with those two combined, and that's who we would go to. Purchase price for new minus their trade-in offer, whoever's the low out of all the vendors that are on that contract, that's who we go to, and then that's considered competitively offered out to us, so that way we can go back and say everything's been done kind of by our rules.
Is there any reason why you could not take the best trade-in value and the lowest purchase price and use different vendors? Buy the motor grader from the Cat dealer, sell your current to the John Deere dealer because they had the highest, and that's the best net value. You got two different contracts, but...
Possible. It's possible. I think the biggest issue we would have is we would have to consider whether or not that's considered competitive on our part, where we have a contract, it all goes through. The biggest thing for us in contracts is if it's offered out to everybody and it's done through our Office of Contracts, that carries a lot more steam than we, because then it gets into the issue of, are we just going around and picking a couple and getting the price and then going with that? So that's probably what keeps us most into this contract where we do it. I think it's possible it's something that as we move forward, we could, look at, but the contract language is what helps us out.
This is Brian with VDOT, so just wanted some clarifying questions. So Doug, if I understand you're making the decision when you're negotiating the contract, or not only the contract, but when you're making the purchase decision based on what the trade-in value is. And I heard, Jay, I think you're saying that yours is at the beginning of the process, your trade-in value is at the end of the process. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not sure which one of those I like. It's nice to know up front, but the way the markets have been so crazy, and you place an order now and then 3 years later they get the trade-in, they may not be so happy with what they've offered. So I don't know.
He's right, and Jay touched on that in his presentation, that the concern we have, especially right now with the long lead time, is how do we manage that? And there's a couple other things that we've talked about. One of them is, do we also take what they think they're going to give us and then offer that up as an auction item with a reserve on it to try to help spread that out? The other thing that Jay had kind of touched on was, do we also maybe skip a year and we keep an extra year of vehicles in reserve that gets through the first year? And then when we go to buy the new ones, we can offer that trade-in right then and there and get rid of them. And then in theory, then we get on a cycle where each year we're doing that. It would increase our fleet, but it would give us the ability to give a truck up right then and there. So there's still some hurdles on that end, and they've been meeting with the vendors actually to discuss what's probably the best scenario to get through it. So thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.